a lot of my memories have revolved around moments of hair and things that have been done to my hair, or the people that have done something to my hair. And so, yeah, that's why I was really interested in being part of this discussion. So thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you all.
And
I'm lucky last, I suppose.
Malwanda, are you there, Baba? I mean, Kuma.
Yes, I am. Can you guys get me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay.
Will you be able to turn your video on?
I thought it says it's on here.
Okay.
I might have to leave and come back later, but I'll just do the intro and then try that. Does that work?
Of course.
So I guess mine's a bit different from everyone else. I'm a law student at the moment at the University of Manchester, going into third year. I'm in Zambia at the moment because of like the pandemic, but I'll be going back to Manchester soon. And I'm just generally interested in learning and being more sustainable with my practices generally. And that's basically why I'm here.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing a
Thank
slide
you.
with us. And I will do my little introduction as well. So I'm Banji, and I'm Zambian by birth and descent, but I've lived in quite a few places, which is why my accent is a little bit higgledy-piggledy. I consider myself a storyteller, an archivist, and an archivist. And at the center or the core of all my work is the preservation of the Southern African narrative, mainly focusing on Zambia because that's where my heart and my soul is. But outside of that, I focus a lot of my work on telling the stories of Black and brown bodies as well, mainly focused on women because it's important to me to tell my story as well as give way for other Black women to tell their stories. I'm extremely passionate about sustainability because I feel just this extreme deep connection to the earth. And when you feel connected to something, there's a need to preserve all the constitutive elements in the different ways in which they manifest themselves. And I think as a Black woman, hair is so important to us and a big part of our routines, our life, our culture, our tradition. And I think it's important to revisit, revise, and reformulate the relationship we have with our hair in conjunction with the environment, which is why I started this project. So thank you so much to everyone for wanting to be a part of it and for being such active participants the whole way through. I'm so grateful to have like such a powerful group of women doing this with me. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think maybe we should get started. Lani and Samantha still aren't here, but you may join us later or may join the session tomorrow. So as I said earlier, this is basically like a round table talk. I imagine us sitting on the floor all together in a little circle, just doing things out. But I do have like a few prompts just to guide the conversation in case it just meanders off a little bit. And I think most of us have already talked about our experiences with hair, but my first question is, why did you feel compelled to be a part of this project? Like what drew you to this?
Who goes first? Should I go first?
Yeah, open.
Well, so after I moved to Spain, when I was back home, I found it really easy to do with my natural hair, have it done easily. So when I moved here, it was so hard. I didn't even know how to take care of my own hair. It was that horrible that I damaged my hair because I didn't actually know how to take care of it. So I started to braid my hair more often than I actually did when I was back home, because then when I was home, I would weave it, sew ins or something. I don't know what you guys call it, but I would weave it a couple of times, and it was actually easier because I'd buy a pair of bundles and use them over and over again. But when I got here, I realized that I couldn't afford to go to salons all the time because it's so expensive. And so I started to braid my hair very often. So I'd braid it about maybe every 2 months, and I would do it frequently. So which meant that I bought extensions quite often than I should have, and I'd have to cut them every time after, and that even now I hate it as much as I have the braids on right now, but it's something that I've never had the peace doing. And so when I saw Banji sharing, what the dangers of, extensions that cannot be recycled, they harm the earth, and I was quite compelled to join the group because I hadn't thought of it in that way, even though I knew that I actually didn't even know what happens to the braids after I cut them. I had no idea. That was how ignorant I was. So that's the reason why I joined the group. And I've seen the messages being shared. Banji has shared a couple of, resources and articles from people that are actually doing something about it. And it was quite interesting, and I would love to learn about it because I think I'm a woman who's going to have children soon at some time in my lifetime. And I just don't want them to do the same stuff I have done, So yeah, that's why I'm part of this. So thank you.
I think for us, and Carol, obviously jump in if you want to add anything, but prior to our launch, because as Carol mentioned, the recycling and sustainability element is something that is very, very central to what we do. And, we're very conscious of the fact that synthetic hair is typically made of sort of plastic fibers that are typically difficult to recycle. And as Tasheni just said, I think so many of us have done it before, for years before, where we've used hair extensions and thrown them away, and to be honest, not giving it that much thought in terms of what happens to them afterwards, and not necessarily also thinking about the environmental impact of those hair extensions. But because we, as I said, this is something that we're really passionate about, it's something that we really want to make a success, and we feel like this is something unique that we're offering compared to other brands. So it's really important to us to get it right. And getting it right, it comes in a number of different ways, I suppose. I think, you can get it right in terms of what you're doing, like you're trying to do a positive thing, you're trying to be unique, and you're trying to do something differently. But you're also, you need to get it right in terms of making it easy for people to do it. Because if it isn't something that people are already doing routinely or habitually, then they're not going to find it easy to start recycling their hair extensions. So we also just want to understand, some of the challenges that potentially are in place still now, even with the knowledge that we have. We did some focus groups before we launched, and we discussed the sustainability side of things before we launched. So we have an idea, but Carol and I very much saw this as a great opportunity to just understand even more in an honest and open forum what people think about the whole sustainability element, whether it's something that's a real challenge for them, whether they think it's something they'll be doing more of. Even if they think it's not something they'll be doing, we want to know about that as well, because we want to know what barriers there are that still exist. So this is just really interesting, as well as bringing our own experiences to it. So yeah, from my perspective anyway, that's why I was so keen to be part of this.
Yeah, and I second exactly what Lola has just said. For us, it's really an educational piece to understand, a consumer thought process when you're buying synthetic hair. Are you buying synthetic hair because it's cheap? Or are you buying synthetic hair because you want to change up your hairstyle? Or are you buying synthetic hair because it's easily available? There's all those elements to it. But then a lot of people, like myself, I've been guilty of it, where when you do use it and you've kept it for say 6 weeks or so, and you throw it in the bin, there isn't that much education around what happens. So we really want to kind of sort of understand people's position on sustainability, especially when it comes to recycling hair, and whether what has compelled you to kind of sort of, look into it, as opposed to just sitting back and just doing nothing about it. So that's our take on it. And we want, as Lola said, we want to try and get it right. As I mentioned earlier, that we only launched in May, so this is very much new to us. But so far, I think we've had great response here, especially in the UK, regarding the whole recycling element. And I think we as Black people need to kind of sort of finally wake up, because I think we're quite slow off the mark in certain things, and I think sustainability is one of them. So I'm really sort of interested to, I'm really pleased to see so many Black women on this forum to kind of sort of share their experience and, and give ideas as to what we can be doing better as a community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Very nice.
Noxie, let us in.
I was compelled to join this project from the perspective of archiving. I thought it would be interesting to have this as an archive that can be the beginning of something, beginning of an important discussion on sustainability and hair. And I remember looking through some of your stories, Banji, and being like, I've never even thought about recycling my braids once I've taken them out, or anything like that before. And it caused me to then research and look into it further. And I thought that to have this archive would be important to spark something like that in other people who aren't just involved in this forum. And so, yeah, that's why for me it was so important to be part of this, and to be part of the archive. And like you were discussing, the possibility of doing something artistic with the information that we find here, creating an installation or writing a work, and being the part of something much bigger than just this discussion.
Malwande, we're chatting about what drew you to this project. Would you like to share where the compulsion came in for you? Can you hear us?
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. From my side, I'd never thought about what happens to hair fiber after we take it out, and I braid my hair quite often. I've been braiding my hair since I was a child.
The internet's a bit wonky, but we will wait a little while. But it's good to hear that everybody felt this was something they wanted to be a part of, because of like the further repercussions and the greater awareness it could instill, not just in ourselves, but in, I guess, the wider communities. Because once you're able to harness a piece of information or knowledge, it's only, I guess, natural and right to let that radiate outwards and share it. And I think it's important to bring awareness on this topic, and not just in a conversational way, as Noxie said, but in creating something a little bit bigger. So this project is part of my writer's residency with an organization called Lungs. And first and foremost, I am a writer, but I'm an artist as well. So I was thinking by the end of this project, I would have collated enough information and snippets to put together a bigger project. So possibly an installation or a performance piece. And it's quite nice because there's quite a lot of artists among us. So everyone can kind of take a little slice of what they've learned from this and put it into production. And it's great because we're in so many different places in the world as well. So we have that advantage of, I guess, spreading the message globally as well. So the second prompt is, did any of the resources on the resource list spark something in you? Was there something you went, oh my God, to, or something you went, oh, okay? Just where are you at with the resources, or have you come across something in your own reading around this topic that you'd like to share?
I have something on this. I guess I just cut my video because at least then you have a picture of me instead. I don't know why it's not showing. But what I found interesting is like literally outside where I live became like an impromptu dumping site, so to say. And I would always find like extensions in there. And like it would be like a big part of it because it's like near a lot of hair salons and stuff. And it just, when I saw the post about this, and there was that first video, though it was in Swahili, but we got the transcript, and it reminded me, like when I was younger, I would reuse braids, like wash the synthetic extensions and then reuse them out of like, based off of wanting to be like cost effective as opposed to thinking of the environment. I thought how it was interesting, like, I don't know if this is just me reading too much into it, but like as you get more comfortable like financially, in some ways sustainability reduced because of how available products were to me. So instead of being sustainable for the environment, it kind of sparked out of being cost effective initially as opposed to, yeah, environmentally, like being good for the environment.
And I think he made such a good point about the relationship between sustainability and capitalism. Because of the nature of the system, we are almost forced to increase our hyper-consumerist nature the further up, I guess, this socio-economic ladder that we climb up, which is such a divorced concept from, I guess, what stripped down African tradition or ways of life would be, you know, because say back at home, I live on a farm, and I sometimes just go and sit with the people who work on the farm, and I sit there and I'm like, they are so resourceful with what they have. You know, they'll sometimes like take a potato sack, use their potatoes and reuse the potato sack as like a dish scrub. You know, that's something that we in our glass and concrete houses won't even think to do because we can go to the supermarket and buy that yellow and green sponge, you know. It's extremely wasteful, the way that we're living. And I think it's important to find a way to counter this hyper-consumerism that everybody's so caught up in. And once we do that and return back to basics, I think we will not only just be more in touch with, I guess, our culture and the earth, but be in touch with, I guess, a more mindful way of living, which we completely lost, you know. And it's a bit of a shame, but it's good to see that a lot of people are thinking about it in that way and framing it like that. So yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carol, were you going to say something?
I bet I'm going to say what you're going to say, so please go ahead.
I don't know. Let's see. No, I was just going to echo Banji's point about you know, the differences between the UK and the difference between the Western world and, you know, and Africa. So one of the things that we actually came across in a few months ago now was about this Kenyan recycled hair market, which I think you had posted. I don't know if it was you or someone else, I can't remember who had posted about this. It was an Instagram post put up. It was a few months, I think it was from last year. And it was basically this recycled hair market where, you know, the lady in Kenya very much, as you were saying, Mukuma, about, you know, sort of finding that hair, washing it and reselling it basically. And, you know, just that resourcefulness. And it's just interesting to think about that in the UK being such a far removed concept from what people do. Just the fact that it's, as you said, we're such such consumers, and it's so wasteful, and it's just not something that people necessarily are considering. And one of the things that interested me and is in such stark contrast to the idea of that Kenyan recycled hair market is Carol and I had a conversation just before we launched with somebody who was, and I think what's the word, not your friend, when they're like not an associate, acquaintance, that's it. And they, sorry, my baby's coming in to join us.
Screaming downstairs. He's happy,
but he basically, sorry. So we had a discussion with the acquaintance, an acquaintance of Carol's, and what was really interesting was that we were talking her through our idea for our business, and she misunderstood what we were saying, and she actually thought we were talking about recycled hair as opposed to recyclable hair. And she was quite dismissive, wasn't she, Carol? She was very like, oh, people won't like that, people won't want that here in the UK. And it's just such stark contrast to, you know, what we're hearing about in other parts of the world. So sorry about the baby, guys, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah,
was that what you were going to say, Carol?
No, exactly. Great minds think alike, darling. So I was going to say the same thing. And just to add to what Lola has said, I mean, we can even simplify it even further. So, for example, like Lola, you see that she has a baby. I also have a baby. I have an 8-month-old, and I decided pretty earlier on in my pregnancy that I wasn't going to buy anything new for my baby. Some people thought that was harsh, but I thought from a sustainability point of view that my baby is going to grow so quickly. I didn't want to get caught up with the whole idea of spending hundreds of pounds on a new cot, a new pram, new clothes for something that was only going to be used, I don't know, maybe for a couple of years. So I decided to buy secondhand clothes for my child. Her cot, I got it again secondhand. A lot of the things that I bought for my baby has all been secondhand. Now, when I told my sister, I told a couple of friends, they were mortified. They were absolutely mortified at the fact that I bought secondhand clothes for a start for my baby. My sister actually added, don't you want to put your baby in something fresh? That was her stance on it. Don't you want to put the baby in something fresh? You know, it's a new baby, buy something new for the baby. And here in the UK, there is something, especially, you know, within the Black community, there's something, I don't know what it is, there's something quite off-putting about going secondhand or reusing items. So when we look back to our hair, for example, hair extensions, if we were to sort of produce, you know, sell used extensions, I can guarantee you here in the UK, it will be shut down. People would not go for it because of the nature of how it is here in the UK. We consume a lot, and it's all about, a lot of it is quite superficial. It's all about how we want to be presented or how we present ourselves to the world. And so I've decided from the whole sustainability element, I've even taken it further by even, you know, my house. A lot of my furniture is all secondhand, and so it's very important to me to kind of sort of try and be as resourceful as possible, because at the end of the day, we need to kind of sort of look after the environment, because you know, as I've mentioned, I have a daughter who's coming through, and I need to do my bit to show her that actually you don't need to go down this route. Things are there, you can utilize it, and they work just as well. So so we've done, as Lola said, we did a lot of market research about recycling hair extensions and what that looks like. And as I said before, we're about to roll out the scheme where you literally, what we've done is we've given our customers the choice. So we're not making it compulsory just yet, because we know our community. But we're giving it the choice. We're giving our community the choice to opt in into the recycling scheme. And, you know, we have to reward them. So by enticing them to do that, because Black people, from what we've seen here in the UK, they want something in return. It's not just about, you know, looking after the planet. We have to also protect our pockets. So we have said, okay, if you recycle, we will give you loyalty points, and if you accumulate those loyalty points, we'll give you money off your next purchase. And it's quite a big discount, so that we can start to sort of educate our customers the importance of doing this, but as well as, you know, the long term, saving you lots of money by doing this on your next order. So I think we've still got a long way to go, in particular here in the UK, but I do hope that people will listen and people will take part in our recycling scheme and be educated and be informed to make the right choice, so that they do their bit, not just for themselves, but for the wider community, for the planet, and for their future generation. And that's where we come into it. Sorry, I'm getting a bit passionate about it, and I can go on and on and on and on. So but that's where we're coming at it from.
And I think it's quite important that you mentioned the aspect of, I guess, the superficiality that exists in this, because on that, below that YouTube video that I linked you guys to about the recycled hair market in Kenya, the comments were absolutely appalling. People were like, why would she do that? It's gross. How do people know what they're buying, etc., etc.? And I thought, okay, fair enough in a sense, but who's to say like other producers like Alibaba or AliExpress or hair that you buy on eBay aren't doing the same thing? There's just more of a stigma because it's within the African context, you know? And that, to me, I was so shocked. Like the comments were absolutely blowing my mind. And it just pinpointed the fact that people are always quick to judge something that they don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that lady's hustle it's amazing. I was like, you know what, you go girl, get your coins and say
yeah. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, look at the human hair market. That exactly. You can technically say that's used, because you know, it grew out of somebody's hair, you know, head. And I don't know what, I mean, for me, you know, wearing somebody else's hair, somebody else, you know, that was grown out of some another body, compared to something that was manufactured but just reused or washed and treated again and pretty much packaged as if it's brand new. I can't see, I see a bit of hypocrisy, to be honest with you, in that sense, because if you're willing to go and wear another person's hair, why would you not wear reused, recycled, you know, extensions? I don't understand.
Exactly. It is quite a difficult one, and I guess there's a lot of unlearning that has to be done on like a human consciousness level. And human consciousness isn't something that you can unpick or unpack in a sliver of time. It will take a good while for people to unlearn their habits and their preconceived notions about stuff. But again, the more that people are having conversations like this and actually challenging what the normative view is, the more people's minds open and the more antennas will kind of stand up, which I think it'll take a while, but you can't like start a revolution in a day, you know? So it'll take a while, but I'm quite positive about it, because more and more people seem to be on this wavelength. So my next prompt is, has your view on braids or having braids or braiding hair changed at all since the beginning of this project, or interacting with the information that has been presented?
I really enjoy having braids in my hair. I've always enjoyed it. But then there came a time where I started thinking very deeply about this issue of sustainability and realizing the plastic that goes into making synthetic braids, and thinking that perhaps it would be best to distance myself from having braids in my hair, and just as a way of saving the planet, I suppose, because I wouldn't be discarding them the way I did before. But after having engaged with a lot of the material, I realized that it didn't have to be that way. It can be recycled, it can be reused. And so it's just reignited a conversation within myself about the braids that I loved, and being able to have them again, and still not feel like I'm doing bad work or I'm going against this idea of sustainability, because there is a way for it to be sustained. I mean, Carol and Lola's company is incredible. The idea that you get to send them back and they're melted down and remade is still the same as perhaps not even wearing them at all in your hair. So yeah, it's really just reignited this relationship that I had abandoned, just because I thought it would be the best and most sustainable way to go about doing the things.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely on the same wavelength. So when I guess the thing in my head clicked into place, I was like, oh my God, I'm not putting extensions in my hair again. And as you said, I absolutely love braids. I love the dynamism that comes with being able to change my hair. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being a Black woman with Black woman hair, is we can do so much with it. So there was a part of me that I felt like I had to sacrifice, you know? But as you said, when I came across sustainable alternatives like Tiwani Heritage, I was like, you know what? I absolutely still can do this because it's being executed with higher levels of environmental consciousness. And that's what I think is important, not completely scrapping things, but just reformulating. And thank you guys for being so innovative and putting Tiwani together, because I think it has the potential to change or reignite that, I guess, lost fragment that a lot of eco-conscious Black women have had in the sphere of hair. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it was interesting with our focus group when we did present the idea of recycling hair extensions. It was pretty split, wasn't it, Lola, for those who would buy from us. And I think we had to be very careful in terms of, you know, trying to, you know, provide a service and, you know, with the right product offering that people were willing to pay for. And what we got a lot, the answer, 50% of the women who attended the focus group, the most important thing to them was price, wasn't it, Lola? Rather than buying from a Black-owned business, buying, or, you know, getting a product that was curated for them, by them, and even on the sustainability front, it was redundant to 50% of our forum, and we just thought that was a little bit disheartening. However, the other 50, probably 30% of them, that, you know, out of the other 50, basically said they would pay the price didn't matter to them, because it was all about the brand and what the message of that brand and what it stood for, over and beyond the pricing element. So again, it was a small percentage, but we're hoping that that small percentage in time will accumulate and get the message out there, and people see that what we're doing is for the greater good. I do hope that we can move beyond just the whole pricing element, because I do feel that sometimes as Black people here, especially in the UK, yes, things are expensive, but put your money where it's actually needed. Rather than putting your money in something that, again, I use the word superficial. So I think we're still trying to sort of navigate what we deem is important. I can tell you that a lot of my friends still don't recycle. I mean, even plastic, they don't recycle plastic. Plastic bottles, they still go out and buy plastic bottles and still throw it in the bin as if it's nothing. So I don't know, we still have a long way to go, but there are a handful of us who are still trying to kind of sort of get the message out there. So, but it'd be interesting to hear from, you know, the rest of you, how it is in Africa in terms of how dynamic or how successful recycling is, especially from the hair extensions point of view. I mean, you know, we did talk about the video, but is there anything else that other companies are doing to ensure that sustainability is met, that you can share with us, and what you think works quite well?
So, I mean, I think commercially there aren't many companies, or not even the state is that focused on the recycling element and all its components. I mean, if you walk down like a street in London or in Rome, you will likely see a couple of recycle bins here and there. But in Lusaka, we don't have a system like that at all. Everything all ends up in one landfill. But I guess from individual level, or like smaller businesses, similar to the model that we looked at in the video in Kenya, a lot of, small scale companies are taking and recycling. So there are a few boys and girls that I've come across in Lusaka or in different parts of Zambia who ask you for your water bottles, your plastic water bottles when you're done with them. And they go and refill them and sell them or refill them with cooking oil or things that they can sell at their market stores. And again, I think this comes back to that resourcefulness and the need have to be resourceful. You know, for a lot of other people who are living, I guess, comfortable lives in which they don't have to think outside of the box, none of that is happening. What's it like in South Africa?
It's also not really, the idea of recycling is still very new. We have like a paper recycling company that I don't even know if they still run. We used to have they used to give you a little bag and you used to fill it with all your paper, and they used to come like on Thursdays to come and recycle the paper. But I don't even know if that's still a thing in Joburg. But what's really interesting is that there's a huge, like you mentioned, Banji, of people who come when it's the rubbish day and they sort through the garbage dustbins, and they take out the plastic and they take out tin and all of that kind of stuff. And we often see them on the road hauling these big bags filled with recyclable materials to go and take to the recycle places to in exchange for money. So a lot of the recycling here comes out of need more than want, and even in terms of hair, I don't think I've never heard the discussion of recycling hair anywhere. I don't know if that's something that's very common, but you often find hair extensions everywhere in the streets. So, yeah, that's sort of like the scene that I've experienced of Joburg. I don't know if Malwande has experienced a different experience of Joburg and the recycling scene.
Malwanda, what's your experience with recycling in Johannesburg? Okay, we'll come back. Tashani, what's it like in Basque?
Well, and then also Spain, they're very diligent when it comes to recycling, as in there's trucks every single day to pick up your glass bins or your plastic bins, your paper bins, even your clothes that you decide to give to charity. I think I'd never experienced this type of lifestyle until I moved here back home, like Banji has mentioned. I think for me, what I want to add on when it comes to recycling, having an African perspective of it. I think people look at it in the sense of poverty. If you use something over and over again, it's looked at in the sense that you don't have money to buy something. So, and people don't want to, I think we don't want to appear that way, that we're so poor. And that is why perhaps they were making fun of the lady who sells recycled hair, you know, because if I think of it, back home, people actually recycle their stuff, but it's because they don't have money to buy something else. So I think the thing comes to the mindset. If you are taught that you have to recycle because you can't afford something, you always have that mindset to say, I am recycling because I'm broke, because I'm poor. And growing up myself, the couple of times that I did recycle braid hair, maybe because so much money was spent on it, so we have to use it over again. But I never had the idea of sustainable living, recycling until I moved to Europe. And I think it's something that we have to teach people who have no idea about, because as much as we know the benefits of sustainable lifestyle or recycling, people think of it as a sense of poverty, like, oh, you're poor, that's why you have to do this, and everyone wants to buy something new. Oh, I bought a new this. Even when you already have proper stuff, you still want to go ahead and buy something just because you think it's cooler. And I think it's just something that has to be unlearned. You know, we have to just think in a different way. But over here, recycling, learned to recycle in Spain. I had never recycled back home, so I try my best. And it's something that you have to get used to, because it's easy to just throw your plastic in the bin without thinking about it, because you're always in a rush. You want to, you're rushing to do something. And it's just a lifestyle that has to be taught to say there's nothing wrong with recycling. It doesn't mean you're poor. You're actually you're benefiting in both ways. You save some coins and also you save the earth. So that's my opinion on it. And yeah.
And I think on, I guess, a somewhat flip side of the coin, it's understandable in a way that a handful of people in sub-Saharan African countries aren't focusing on something like sustainability, because there are, I guess, bigger fish that they need to fry in a way, you know. But I mean, again, that's about reframing what's important. And I think there has been enough education on the topic for people to understand that it is important. Because how the world is set up, when environmental disaster hits first, or when it hits, it's going to hit poor Black indigenous communities first, you know. And I think there's a need for people to understand that they are kind of at the center of the storm, you know. And it's so unfortunate, because you have like the industries in the West who produce the most carbon emissions, but the floods and the cyclones are happening in Mozambique, you know. And there's a need for, I think, Black African people to center ourselves at this, or in the story of sustainability, and be what's it called when you're, this is a theater term, protagonist. Boom. Being the protagonist of our own stories, because I feel like there's this concept that sustainability or caring about the environment is something Western and foreign. It's something that very much is visceral and vivid in our communities, you know. So it's the whole re-education thing. And in schools, nobody's doing it. No, like, even in your geography lessons, or whatever subject environmental studies would come under, nobody's doing it, you know. So I think at the base level, there's a need to institutionalize the environmental education, and that's something I guess at some point I'm hoping to do. I know for sure my government is not going to do it, so it's very much up to, I guess, the private sector to start rolling out these educational curriculums in schools, and start teaching people when they're young the value of it. So those are my 5 cents, not even 2 cents, because I was talking for a long time. But yeah, let's see. Yes. So another prompt is transparency in the production of hair products is often like a massive roadblock in understanding where your hair is coming from or who's making it. Do you see yourself, like, what do you think would be a practical way to be more transparent, especially from like the production end, Lola and Carol? What do you think?
Well, we try to be transparent, because I think, you know, people generally, not just with regards to sustainability and recycling, etc., but I think people generally like to see that and feel like they've got, you know, a window into what they're buying is coming from, and what we do with it, how it's produced, you know, basically everything that happens to it before it arrives on your doorstep and it's in your possession. So we definitely, you know, we definitely try and be transparent about where we source our products, and we're trying as well to work. You know, it's funny because all of this, all that we've been talking about is about the greater resourceful mindset that there is in Africa compared to some of the Western nations. And while that resourcefulness is born more out of necessity than, you know, a desire to be more environmentally friendly, it's definitely something that's admirable. And one of the things that Carol and I are really trying to work towards, and we have some leads and we're exploring those and we're continuing to have those conversations, but we want to work primarily, if not entirely, with Africa-based suppliers, for this very reason, because we feel like the typical place where hair extensions are sourced is kind of the Asian markets, and they have a very different view of synthetic hair than we do. And, you know, we very much want to work with people who match our mindset and are like-minded and have the same values and share the same principles. So we're definitely, as I said, kind of looking to move more towards the suppliers based in Africa. And, you know, as we establish more and more business connections, that's definitely what we'll be shouting from the rooftops about to our customers. And, you know, going so far as to visit our factories and, you know, film ourselves at the factory and see how it's all produced and see how it's all disposed of when it's done, etc. So yeah, it's so important to be transparent.
Yeah, I mean, even from our warehouse, where we stock the hair extensions, we partnered up with a sustainability warehouse and packing company. They're actually called Green Fulfillment. It says it in the name. That was very, very important to us to keep up with the whole sustainability element, because we're very serious about this. And, you know, as Lola said, you know, we are looking at ways of, you know, trying to partner up with African factories so that we just keep it pretty much in-house. Sorry, my baby's kind of like trying to get into the video. Say hi, say hi, say hi, say hi. Hi. Okay. So yeah, so I've lost my thought now because she's not. But yeah, everything that Lola has said. But we're just doing what we been to the fibers are made of, to give tips and advice to our customers as to how best to preserve it as long as possible. But I think companies should be transparent. I think gone are the days where gone are the days where you couldn't, you know, provide such information. I think you have to be ready and you have to be honest about, you know, your sources. Yes, darling. Okay, come on then. Look, say hello. Say hello. Yeah. Okay, so gone are the days where you could keep certain elements quiet, but now I think it's so important, and as to credibility, your credibility, what you're about, to be open and transparent to your customers, and I think people buy into that. I'm going to go on mute because I think she's going to cry in a sec. So yeah, sorry, continue. I'm still here. I'm listening. I'm just going to go on mute.
Perfect. So that's all my prompts done, actually, and right on time. Very shocked with all this Zambian blood flowing through my body. I managed to finish on time. But does anyone have any last remarks or anything that they want to add, or they feel like I missed out? No? Okay, well, I'm so grateful for all of you for being so involved. And I think we've spoken about some really tangible, hard-hitting stuff that definitely needs to continue being discussed in wider context. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. So what I'm gonna do is, after this session, I will convert the audio to MP4 and I will send it to you guys just so you know exactly what it is that I have. And before I publish or use anything, I will definitely let you know. Again, on the topic of transparency, I'm trying to be completely open and just loop you guys into everything that I'm doing. So I'll do that and I'll definitely keep in contact. But before we go, could I take a screenshot of our sesh?
Sure, let me just myself. All right.
Yeah, I will say that.
Okay, and shift. I'm gonna try and do this. Take me a screenshot. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you have the most lovely evening and a wonderful week to come.
Thanks a lot. Just a quick question. Will we have a follow-up meeting after this, or is this the first and last?
No, I think it would be good to, after the session tomorrow, maybe to get everybody in one group together. That way we'll have more heads, more heart, more conversation. I just thought it would be easier to split just based on like the time limits and just first getting to know each other in smaller compartments, but I think there will be follow-ups. I'll keep looped into the process entirely.
Great.
In the next couple of days, I'll know and I'll let you guys know for sure.
Very well. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and nice to meet you all. See you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Banji. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.